Everyone had a good Easter, had a good weekend. Hope you guys got to make your phone calls last week. And we are so Peter and I actually were talking today, and we actually have like a little bit of an idea of what a few things we want to do just to make this more one, be able to help you guys more. Because at the end of the day, we can give like general rules of thumb and we can do like calls and stuff. But if you're um if you're hitting certain obstacles or objectives that you need help with, like us kind of going around that doesn't make sense. So we do want to make sure that we can one help you with stuff that you are facing now, or while you're making calls, and then secondly, what we also want to do is maybe you're not comfortable talking to a broker, but I think the easiest way to get comfortable is to actually role play, and I think it's beneficial for everyone to do that. I've done it for a very long time when I was more doing the agent life than I do now. But I think anytime you are doing role play, it's the easiest way to break out of that comfort zone, especially you're amongst friends and family here. I think that's important too. So those are some ideas we have that we'll start up, but also make sure that you guys come to us with anything you may have in regards to those objections or hurdles or just hitting that wall, right? We're here for you guys, so we want to make sure that we're helping you all out. Peter, got anything to add to that?
No, that's it. Just, welcome to the Multifamily Freedom Chasers ecosystem. I think most of you on here are familiar with that. We do, multiple calls every week. The content is free, and the plan is to keep it that way. So every Sunday we start off with the activation Zoom. Obviously, we took yesterday off for Easter, wanted everybody to spend time with their family. But we get everybody activated every night on Sunday nights. Then we take action on Mondays, right? We make broker calls. I don't think we're going to do that today. We're not going to make live calls. One of the things we've talked about is to have some live calls recorded, so we always have some content to share, because we're going to continue to do them live, right? My vision is to have 5, 6, 7 people dialing every day. So when we get those live calls, we break out to you guys, right? We want to hear you guys make calls, not just me every week. But I plan to do some of these calls and record them. I failed to do that last week. Quite frankly, last week was spring break, so I didn't do much of anything. But I will commit to doing that this week. I hope that some of you will do the same, right? Record yourself making these calls. We'd love to have those recordings. That would be fantastic. So, so that on Mondays we take action. Perfect. Thanks, Ed. 2 o'clock Eastern time. Then on Tuesdays we do the napkin underwrite with none other than our illustrious Ed Shamirian, and of course Aldo and Will supporting that effort as well. Tuesday nights 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then Wednesdays we alternate between a debt call and a deep dive underwriting. So we've got the Miles and doing the debt calls, and none other than our ninja underwriter Victor NG every other week. I think this week will be underwriting. Did we do debt last week? I think. I believe that's the schedule. Don't hold me to that, but I think we're doing underwriting this week. So we'll hope to see you guys on some of those calls. And again, thanks for being here. Invite your friends. What I'd like to do is get some volunteers to do some role play. I know some of you on here have made calls. That's awesome. We want to encourage you to make some more calls. If you want to volunteer to do some role play, please raise your hand. And of course, if we don't get any volunteers, we'll volunteer somebody. I see you trying to hide over there, Lene. You can't just hide behind that big smile now, You had a cat on your head a second ago. I'm glad you got that problem solved. But is there anybody on the call right now who would like to participate in the role play?
And also, I think one more important thing that I bring up too, it's if there's a specific issue or specific conversation you guys want to hear the role play in, bring that up as well, because we can role play specific points. Maybe you struggle with something, or you ran into a wall and someone made a call about that the other day. You know, you don't know until you bring it up, right? So I think it's also important to vocalize the good and the bad. You know, like if anyone has a win this week, I definitely, or this past week, about a call they had, I'd definitely love to hear about that. And also maybe something that didn't go as well as you would have liked it to. Now it could be on the calls, it could be through email, it could be through whatever it is, you know, just bringing those to light and how we can knock it out and help each other, I think is valuable and important as well. So those are just some things to keep in mind. Does anyone have something that they did in the past week in regards to a win or a hurdle that they want to overcome or bring light to the group?
Not a lot of participation today, Ed. Looks like it's gonna be me and you making it happen.
So, hi everyone, I'm Adrian.
Hey, Adrian.
I just started with you guys, and hurdle that I have, I mean, I haven't called any brokers yet, so this will be a first week for me. So that will be the hurdle, just talking with them and seeing just how to get the conversation started pretty much. So I'm willing to role play.
Awesome.
Okay,
Awesome. Thank you. So have you always been in the multifamily or real estate space, or were you single family before? Tell us a little bit about you.
So I've been in real estate industry for 13 years. I was a property manager, still am, which I managed multifamily apartments, so anywhere between 100 to 600 plus units. I managed in Iowa, Colorado, and now in Massachusetts. I started my real estate investing journey fairly recently in 2022. So I was actually going to be focusing on residential multifamily, but after having a conversation with Iffy and everything, and based on my experience, she's like, why don't you just jump right on into commercial multifamily and just give it a go, you know, and put my best foot forward. So that's where I'm at now.
So I have a bit of a property management background as well. It looks like we might be taking notes from you on these calls based on how because think about it, as a property manager, and I know there's obviously like a hierarchy kind of thing, like a tier list, but you are the most familiar with what a seller wants and where their mind is at. You know, you've interacted most with the seller, you know what concerns could come up, and you also know the headaches that could come with the property. So you're going to have a very good background and be able to relate to a lot of brokers in that sense, which is why it's like easy for me to do, because I'm licensed here in LA. Like I live in Los Angeles, California. I talk to brokers all the time. I was more hands-on as an agent in the residential side, but I would talk to commercial brokers all the time. So the conversation for me is very easy in that sense because of that background, and you'll have that same easy transition. Now it's just about, okay, what do we need and what is our objective and how to just control the call, which no, thank you for volunteering. So we'll definitely go through that as well. Here, how does the conversation about the stabilized free rent in markets like Wes, can you unmute elaborate on your question in the chat?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, so I know like in some area in some areas in some cities there's a limit to how much you can bump your rents, and also like I guess free rent is because I just started in this, and my friend in New York, he explained me some questions I should ask specific about this city, and it was about this as well, and it was about how the free rent is, I guess, when you can how do you say that, like kick out people, or I just want to know yeah, about this.
That is very state specific, so I'm happy you specified that. I live in LA, and I'm sure New York is very similar in that sense as well, where getting anyone out in LA or increasing their rents is a pain. People don't want to invest here for that exact reason. You could find a great deal and people just might not be interested. But what that really comes down to, and we mentioned this a lot on this call and other calls, is it's very important to know your market and why you're buying there. Like in LA, if I break even on a property, like I don't need to make $1. If I break even for the next 10 years, I know my property and my equity has substantially grown. I can't say the same about some places in the Midwest, for example, right? Like if I don't cash flow in Ohio, sorry for anyone that lives in Ohio, I'm not gonna look in 10 years and be like, this is a good investment. I'm screwed, right? In LA, if I break even, I'm happy. Like I have property now that kind of are above cash flow, like we're good. Like we have a little bit of a wiggle room. Are we breaking the bank on it? No, but I know in 5 years, 3 to 5 years, it's gonna be worth double, if not 2.5 times more what we got it for. And that essentially how you look at it is, what's your strategy, first and foremost? If you are looking to wholesale or partner with other people, what's their strategy? Which is very important to ask for, ask to anyone that is in this space. You guys should be having this conversation amongst yourselves as well, what your strategy is. But think about it, answer that question for yourself, because that's gonna make the broker call easier. You know, this all ties back to the objective of this is reaching out to brokers. If you're calling a broker and they're like, what's your strategy? And you have no idea how to answer that question, how are they gonna help you? It's like going to Siri, say, take me somewhere. They're like, where? I don't know. What the heck? Where am I gonna go? Like, it's pretty hard. So to answer your question about the rents and stuff, it really is location specific. For example, in Los Angeles, I know how it is here. You have rent control, that's a big component. You have limitations in regards to low income housing, but that's everywhere. Based on the city. For example, there's a 20 unit in Phoenix that I was in escrow on that we ended up backing out for other reasons. But one of the issues was there's a limit to how much you can charge per rent based on their income. So these are all different components of things, and that's more of like underwriting stuff you have to be aware of, and just it's very deal specific. So if you do have an example you want me to look at, we can look at it offline. But if you have, it's like a general question, there's just so many components that I could go on forever. So, but I can help you with that offline as well.
Yeah, that's I don't have, because I didn't call multifamily brokers yet. But that's kind of the you know how you want to make it perfect every time, and especially the first time. So this is the one thing that is like, what is it? But no, maybe I do that during the week, and next week, if I do run into this problem, I would, yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to run into it that much either. And if you do run into it, you should have that information beforehand, where you then know what question to ask. And remember, one thing Peter and I mention a lot, Peter is very good at this. You're not always calling about the deal that they have listed on the market. You're calling about future deals that no one knows about yet. That's where the value. Like, I have a few brokers I've been lucky enough to connect with, through a good friend of mine in this community, actually, and they send us stuff that no one's seen. You know, and that's what you want, because the stuff everyone's seen, unless you're gonna negotiate a crazy good deal or bring something creative, there's a reason why it hasn't sold in 140 days. You know, but yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on all that. Peter, do you want to add anything on that? Okay, Peter might not be able to talk right now. Cool. So how about this? Since you two volunteered on the role playing, is there anything you would prefer to talk about? David, is there a specific objective you guys have, or you have, that you'd want to role play, or how have you been this past week? I know you're very active as well.
Yeah, I haven't reached out to new brokers in the past week. I have had like 2 conversations with the broker I've been working with. So I guess, yeah, like a win is she's just sent me, some more deals to kind of do some preliminary underwriting and stuff. So it's kind of good to get some deal flow going. But yeah, specifically, I don't have anything really in mind. I was if we're gonna do the live calls, I was gonna do one of those. That's why I just, you know, volunteered to role play as well.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, awesome. So a couple of things I want to comment. First of all, David, thanks for that input. And if you want to make a live call, feel free to go ahead and do that. Just, kind of keep yourself on mute. If you get them, just wave your hands. We'll unmute you and we'll listen. I mean, that's cool too. We'd love to have you, love to have a live call today if we can get one. Right. We just thought we'd kind of step back, go back to basics a little bit. One of the things I was going to do too is get on Crexy, just show you guys what we do on Crexy. You can use LoopNet, you can use any tool you want to use, but Crexy is the one I tend to use the most. That's CREXI for those of you who aren't familiar with that website. CREXI, Crexy. Good tool, free tool. It helps you identify a whole bunch of properties and a whole bunch of brokers to connect with. So I was going to step back and do that a little bit, and then we'll do some role play. And then, we were some of these calls when we first got started, they were dragging on for 2 hours, sometimes more, right? The other thing we want to do is just really get concise, make these things crisp. We've cut most of our calls, except for the Sunday call, down to an hour. And so we want to stay on task and get that done. Wes, I wanted to comment on something you said. You mentioned perfection, right? I'd love for you to take that word out of your vocabulary. Right? If you wait for perfection, you'll never do anything. Right? I'd much rather there's a great saying, I can't remember exactly how it is, but it's like, you have to be willing to be terrible at something to start anything new, right? You're never going to be good when you first get started. Now, look, that doesn't mean you shouldn't prepare and you shouldn't, educate yourself and all of that. That's all great, right? But some people get stuck in that mode, right? And they're just education. At some point, you just got to take action. And as far as the market goes, right? Start calling brokers in a market that you're not going to buy. If you're afraid to mess it up. First of all, who knows how many brokers there are out there? You really can't mess it up with all of them. And there's a great story of a friend of mine who messed up his first call. And I'm sure some of you guys have heard this story before, and forgive me for repeating it, but first call was absolutely horrible. Well, he's doing deals with this broker now, and they laugh about that first call, right? So at the end of the day, if you make a connection with it, you're not going to connect with everybody, and that's fine, right? But just because you mess up the first call doesn't mean you can't recover, make a good connection, and have an ongoing relationship. So, start with a script, have an idea of what you want to say, and that's it, right? And then you just kind of go with it. And I never follow the script anymore, right? I just have it as a guideline. In case I get stuck, if I get off track, and I can just look back at it and kind of get things back online. So, Ed, I see you pulled up Crexy there.
And one more thing I want to add to that. Anyone familiar with the infamous quote? If knowledge was everything, we'd all be billionaires with six-pack abs.
I actually had this as my how do you say that? It's like wallpaper for a while. Yeah, and recently, like once I heard this from I heard this from bloggers as well, like imperfect action, and the expression I remember more often recently is like I used to play chess, and my chess teacher told me that you have to lose 2,000 games to learn how to play. And it's like, man, I just gotta make 2,000 calls, and then I'll figure everything out.
Wes, you became my new best friend because I've been getting into chess recently, and even though I'm getting my butt kicked, I love it. So we're gonna have to connect on that because I'm gonna need some tutoring on that. And the fact that you just had a coach already puts you far ahead of me. So I'd love to connect on that level too, because I think it's fun. I wanted to open this up. and this is the Crexi website for anyone that's not familiar. One thing that was shocking to me is Crexi stands for Commercial Real Estate Exchange. Mind blown when I found that out, but it's cool. Look how simple it is. You just click here, that little lines right here, find a broker. That's it. This is local, like brokers close to me, obviously. But you can also do Chicago for whatever reason it's in my area. You know, this is how easy it is to find a broker to call. The great part about this is Crexi does the hard part for you, where you have different specific brokers specialties, multifamily, by location, by brokerage, the name, the association, listings sold. I think this is very valuable. You know, you don't want to spend all your time talking to a broker and they started yesterday. Not that that's a bad thing, because someone has to start somewhere, like we're all trying to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're talking to a broker who you know can get you the value that you're putting the effort in. Now, would I practice with those people? Sure. Can the new broker be a part of a team of the biggest commercial agent in the brokerage, and all of a sudden you found a hidden gem because everyone's calling the top person, but no one's calling the person who started yesterday, and that person gets the knowledge, the resources, and direct access. It's like if you ever want to if you're hosting a podcast, or if you are in a room and you want to connect with someone, don't connect with the superstar. Connect with their best friend. Build that relationship, and they'll get you in the rooms with the superstar and all the celebrities, right? Sam talked about this when he was on the activation Zoom. You know, it's important to make the people around your primary target and the top dog in a brokerage, for example. It's important to get around those people's close friends in their circle, because that's the easiest point of contact. Like if Peter introduces me to a broker and the broker loves Peter, he is then gonna trust me because Peter's gonna vouch for me, and vice versa. You know, if you ever want a good referral or connection, it's going through someone who trusts you and appreciates you, and vice versa, but also has that same trust and affection with the broker there you're trying to get in contact with. You know, it's all simple. It's like, why am I going to spend a month making a connection with someone that Peter already has? You get what I mean? So it's important to think of it like that as well. CRM. Peter, do you have a specific CRM for the broker relationships? I know we've used. You can kind of
right now my CRM is a spreadsheet. Right.
Yeah.
I need to probably change that sooner rather than later. I know there's a lot of options out there. I wouldn't spend a whole bunch of money on a CRM at this point. I think there's plenty of free options. So, but I'm still just using a spreadsheet. So good question, but yeah, something as simple as a spreadsheet can solve that problem for you. Yeah. So Ed, I wanted to comment on something you said there, right? This is great. I've never used it this way, right? You can go straight to the brokers. Awesome. I start with the properties in the market that I'm targeting, and then find the brokers that are associated with those properties, so that I have something specific to call them about. But you can do it this way too, right? Go straight to the brokers. Again, you're going to want to filter it down to the market or markets that you're targeting. And to get started, if it's a market you're not interested in, just for practice, you know, that's fine. I don't recommend you do a whole lot of that. I mean, you don't want to waste their time either. But I did that. I started in California, mostly because my son was living there. And then I quickly realized I'm just not likely to do a deal in California. So I stopped making those calls, and I started targeting my backyard, first of all, here in Georgia. And then, you know, the other markets that me and my team are focused on. So, but as far as the experience level of the broker, I would encourage you to mix that up, right? Because the more experience going to be, they're going to have better questions for you, right? They're going to make it harder on you, which you need that, right? Like Wes said, you need to lose 2,000 games before you can start to learn chess. Well, chess is far more complicated than calling brokers. So you're not going to have 2,000 terrible broker calls before you get halfway decent. You can have 2. And you're going to you'll start to figure it out right away, right? I've literally seen people on a live call like this make their first broker call, and they're better at the end of the call than they were at the beginning of the call. You can see them relax. You can see them get more comfortable. Even if the call doesn't go well, right? It's breaking the ice. That's so key. It's just, getting that first call, right? The phone is less heavy the second time than that first time. And that's the whole purpose of this Zoom, is to get you guys over that hump, get you prepared, and get you ready to make those calls. And one of the best ways to do that is role playing. But so the other point I was going to make is some of the people that are newer, right? Well, the experienced people are going to be harder to break in with, because they've already got their list of buyers, right? They've got a list of transactions that they've done. They have buyers that they know can execute. So not to say I'm not going to try to break in there, right? I am. I talk to a lot of experience, but I know that until I close a deal with them, they're going to tend to go with the people they've already done business with. So some of those newer, mix it up. Call the experienced people, call the newer people, right? Some of them won't be in the business in 6 months, but that's okay. Some of them are going to figure it out. Some of them are going to do a lot of business. And if you're one of the first people you formed a relationship with them, you're going to be top of mind for them. So I wouldn't shy away from the newer folks at all. I love talking to the new guys, right? I know more than they do, even though I don't.
Could you explain real quick? So one of you guys calls specific things in your area and the other guy just calls the broker directly and asks what he has. Could you go into that a little bit and show me how you did that?
Are you talking about on the site or just in general?
On the site.
So I can navigate the site for you. So let's start from the homepage. And then actually I want to mention one more thing that I didn't even realize before. Actually, I may have realized, but forgot a little bit about. So hold on.
Did you understand the question, Ed?
I heard Crexy's better than LoopNet because it has more data, and LoopNet you have to pay to get data that they hide behind the firewall. Is that true?
I think Crexy is kind of like the newer kid in town and the new tool, so it's a little more evolved in that sense. LoopNet seems a little outdated at times and a little bit of a pain to get everything you need. Crexy is not perfect by any means, but just this one resource, finding the right broker, is already a lot better than most sites in general, not just LoopNet. But in that sense, it's a lot cleaner. And I do know Crexy has a paid version where you can get more data, so they have more data. And it's not as expensive as you'd think either. But personally, I just have a weird preference to Crexy. And I don't know if that's LoopNet having a negative connotation, but LoopNet agents are also a little harder to get a hold of, at least from what I've experienced. But to show you how easy it is to navigate here from the home screen, you hit these 3 lines on top, you click find a broker, and it'll take you to that screen I was just on, which to save the loading time essentially is right here. Now, one thing as well that based on the previous conversation we had, you can see their active listings and their sold listings. Actually, I don't even think I've really utilized it as much as I should. This just shows you like, okay, I can now really filter out what I'm looking for with an agent. This person, as you can see, they've done business, 100 sold listings, it's very good, but they just don't have anything right now. Okay. But this person has 10. This person has 14. So it gives you an idea, and the cool part is when you click on their name, it allows you to see what those listings are, and maybe 1 or 2 of them interest you. So now you can go in and ask questions and do some homework and find out a little bit about what these people do, and maybe it's an area that they market in that you like, and all of a sudden you have a talking point. This agent has Corpus Christi listings, Houston, Detroit. Very interesting how they are so scattered. So you never know what you'll find, right? I hope that answered your question. Is there anything else on that I can elaborate on?
How do you do the new guy, the new guy to town? How did you find that?
So on the broker page, it shows you how many listings they sold. which will, and you can change it here. Listing sold, minimum, maximum. You can change that number around, and that'll really show you, like, for example, this person in Newport Beach has one active listing, one sold. Now, keep in mind, this doesn't mean this person is new. It can be, obviously, if they are new on here, but what if they didn't use Crexi before and Crexi doesn't have all their data? That's something to keep in mind as well. At the end of the day, this is one website. This isn't the MLS. This isn't public thing where every single transaction is recorded. Exactly. They could have been at another brokerage. Don't get married to these numbers. If the person has one active listing, one sold, all right, there's a better chance that they're new than someone who has 100 plus that you know has been in the business and active on this site at least. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
And do you guys have a checklist like I want occupancy 80% and below? I want rents 30% below market. I want a growing population. I want a limited amount of fix up. Is there a way to filter those kind of things to get right to the kind of people with properties that you want to buy instead of having to click 1 through a zillion to figure out those kind of numbers?
So that's a good question. Now how I would do it specifically is I take my criteria and I would put like, maybe if you want 20 units is your minimum, I'd put like 18. And then if you're saying I want to go up to 50 units, I'd put like 55, let's say. Give yourself a little bit of a buffer on each end, for better or worse. And then you would find a property that meets that criteria. And then I would call that agent, and maybe that specific property doesn't work for me, but tell that agent, hey, this is what I'm looking for. You got this listing because you know these properties. So that's your best bet. It's you double down on what someone has already done. Because if you go out and ask every agent, hey, do you specialize in this? And they've never done a transaction, they're going to say yes just because they want your business. So you're going to be relying on people who might not have an idea of what you're talking about. But if you talk to a broker who has a listing of a building that you currently are interested or is close to the criteria that you're looking for, and hey, if you see anything off market that meets this, like this is my buy box, it's similar to a listing they have, they know what to look for, you know they have listings in the neighborhood, that should be your first process of elimination. It's finding the agent that's strong in that pocket, and then expanding from there and putting on your more like the other criteria you have. So there is a way to
any way I could, would there be any way I could get your checklist of like what a good buy box would be that you guys could put in the chat or something like that? Because I was curious if it is what I think my buy box is. I'm a financial advisor. I used to work at Merrill Lynch. I just left Royal Fund Management. It's $1 billion RIA. So I've got I got a guy with 4 million. I got some guys that want to invest in this kind of sector because we're done with the stock market. And I'm looking for deals, but I'm more of a I just bought houses for cash and rented them out, kind of like what doctors do. And I haven't been in the multifamily game, but I'm an economist. And one thing that I've seen is a lot of predictions of multifamilies are going to drop, like commercials getting killed. Now multifamily is going to drop 15%. Morgan Stanley, I think it was JP Morgan, just said houses are going to go down 30%. How is that going to affect these multifamilies? Is it going to be like a shark pool and all kinds of deals available a year from now, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that crystal ball, but that's exactly the thinking of many of the bigger players in this space, is that the opportunities are not necessarily plentiful. Well, they're definitely not plentiful right now, right? Right now you've got to find the perfect situation. You've got to find a seller with some significant motivation. There aren't a whole bunch of great deals listed on Crexi or LoopNet at this time.
I think we lost you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was just me or if that was Peter.
What about running pay-per-click ads, or what about text blasting or mailers? And how do you differentiate between a mom and pop, which are going to get a better deal, than like an LLC? I mean, do you do any of that kind of deep dive filtering?
I have done texting before. Mailers, where you want to make sure, see, texting, mailers are going to be more expensive if you're trying to do a volume play compared to texting. The thing also you have to factor in is multifamily, a lot of owners, especially on larger scale, larger numbers, you don't want to be found. You don't want to be contacted for the most part. That's why we have LLCs in place and the agencies and X's and O's and all that component. So it is more likely that you're going to be sending something to the wrong address or to the wrong person or both. That's one of the obstacles with mailers. Text, you have the legal component to it where you have to factor that in, but also you want to make sure with the texting that, again, it could be a landline, like you have to filter all that. And I've done it with directly to agents. Actually, I've used a texting system for that, and that's been successful in the sense of getting responses. Sometimes too many responses where I'm just like overwhelmed, but you kind of just sift through it throughout the day essentially. And then here's one more thing to realize when you're going through like the mom and pop example, like you mentioned, going to someone who is kind of doing it on their own and doesn't have like a formal property management company and doesn't have all the documents lined up, it's going to take a lot more work. Is the reward big? Possibly, yeah, 100%. Like you cut out broker fees, you cut out X's and O's and a middleman essentially. You're gonna get a better deal. But you have to remember this as well. If they haven't kept records, getting a loan, especially today where banks are already a little on edge, getting a loan for a property where you don't have the proper financials and documents and taxes and X's and O's, it's like, oh man, that's a headache in itself. Like a lender will come to you, be like, cool, I need XYZ, and you're like, I have half if I'm lucky. So it's like, okay, now what's your alternative? Not saying it's not possible, it's just more work, like I mentioned. Is the reward bigger? Yeah, 100%, it can be. But you just don't want to get caught up in it where you're spending. It's always good to diversify in that sense where you have a broker who's doing the legwork for you. You have one avenue that's going direct to seller. And then you have another one that might be the LLC component. And you can try to skip trace those, and that takes a little more digging as well. I'm not an expert on this stuff in regards to like data sifting. I do know people that are very good at it. But that's just kind of been my experience with going to direct to seller where I'm like, do you have this? And they're like, no. When's the last time you had this? Like months ago. All right, great. So there is that pushback as well with the seller. I hope that answered the question. I'm not sure if it did. Also, I did message you my info, so please text me. I'd like to chat offline as well, or after this call, just to get an idea of what exactly you guys are looking for.
Can you put it in the chat? I don't think I have any texts or anything.
Okay, here, I got it. So that's my
Sorry, I lost connection there, guys.
Okay. All right, Peter's back. Cool.
Yeah, so Cliff, I don't know if you got, I don't know where I got cut off from you guys, but just talking about the market in general, definitely think certainly later this year, if not into 2024, we expect to start seeing a lot more deals. There's a lot of bridge debt out there right now. And
Variable debt, right?
yeah, with variable rates, and some of them didn't buy a rate cap, and there's just not going to be any way to refinance it. And there's going to be.
What do you think about pref equity coming in and like, is that some kind of gap financing, a bridge loan? It's called pref equity, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a place for it, but those lenders are going to be. In fact, I work for a company that offers that, right? But they're going to, the ones that are going to survive are going to be very, very cautious. And I don't think you're going to be able to get pref equity behind a variable rate loan, not from somebody who knows what they're doing. Prep equity will come into play if you've got a good loan in first position. But
So I
otherwise,
already have a guy who's calling lease option to buy deals, seller financing subject to on houses.
Yep.
Off of Mine Plus leads, expired listings, and FISBO scrape leads. So I'd rather turn them on to something like this where I can get 20 to 100 unit properties, but I don't really know exactly how to do it. So that's why I'm sitting here. But
Well-
can you guys concrete, like you're just saying, don't go directly to the seller, because I've been in some other groups and the one guy's telling me just kind of Google Maps, look for the top of a building that's a multifamily, and then look it up in True People Search and call them. Have the cold caller do that, because you get fresh deals that nobody else has. Somebody else says, get prop wire from Jerry Norton. It's a free prop stream type software. Look up multifamilies, then skip it in like direct skip, 6 cents a skip, and have the guy call that. And then you guys seem to be more about go for the brokers. You don't like those other strategies?
Not at all. It's not that I don't like those strategies. I actually right now, so we started these broker calls last fall in October, right? The market had tightened up a little bit, but nowhere near what it is now. Right now, I think the best strategy is direct to seller, 100%. We're still teaching this because long-term, I'm still going to want the broker relationship, right? This is not a short-term game for me, right? I expect to be in this for the rest of my career, right? However many years of that I have left. I'll be probably do other things as well, right? Like I've always done, but I'll be doing multifamily, I believe. So I'm going to need and want those broker relationships for years to come. But right here, right now, today, if I could only do one thing, I would go direct to seller.
How would you do it?
I think you're and so another thing about these groups is we're all learning together, right? Nothing here is gospel. Take what makes sense to you and apply it. So I have just paid for a mentorship with a guy who's going to teach me how to go direct to seller. So happy
Who's
to
that?
connect with you. His name is David Monroe.
I was thinking of getting a multifamily database and have a caller cold call it, but I don't know where to get that. And then I was thinking maybe I have scrapers, maybe scrape Prexy, and then have a text blast it with REI reply. And then I know Pace Morby's doing something like that. He scraped the realtor list, and he's got people calling the realtors, but he's doing it for houses. So I was thinking I'd do it for multifamily.
Sure.
And then I was thinking once I get the emails of people that own multifamilies, I upload that into Facebook in preferred audiences, I think it's called. And the algorithm finds me other people that own multifamilies. And then I run Facebook ads to those multifamily owners directly and not anybody else, and try to get them to click to get like a free evaluation on or an analysis on the market's going to go down 15%. You need to get out of your multifamily now before it's too late, or use my economics background to do some kind of webinar. So those were some of the ideas I was thinking.
No, look, you're teaching us some stuff here, right? Those are phenomenal ideas. And I'd love to talk to you more about that offline. Like I said, I'm going to be learning from this guy what his strategies are. I'm Peter St. Martin.
I just put my number in the chat. Anybody who wants to talk about deals or has ideas, text me.
Yep, absolutely. We'll definitely reach out to you. In fact, one of the things I usually tell people at the beginning of this is, change your name. So put your IG handle, put a phone number, whatever. Let us know where you are, who you are, how to contact you. That's another thing on these calls. We encourage everybody to be networking, right?
I saw there were only 20 guys, so I didn't get scared.
Yeah. So, but definitely,
Pace Morby, I wouldn't put my name in Pace Morby's group.
you know what, at the end of the day, you're not going to get that many people to call you. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line, right? It's only going to be a handful, and it's going to be the people that are ready to
Because I
take
want
action.
people that know what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or-
and of
or
course,
have
and that's
deals.
right, and that's going to take some time to weed through that too, right? But you're in the right place, right? You've got a
Now, what
whole
about
bunch
the
of
crash? Because you broke down. Do you think the market's going to go down 15% and we should wait to pick up these
Yeah.
properties? Or what do you think?
yeah. So I have no idea, right? No idea what the percentage is going to be. Do I think the market's going to go? As long as we keep raising interest rates, prices are going to come down 100%. It's just math, right? Now, right now, you've got sellers that are holding on for dear life because they like the price they could get last year. They don't like the price they can get this year. So they're not realistic yet. So prices are going to come down. Exactly how much, I have no idea. And it's going to be property and market specific, right? But right now, if you go direct to seller, you can get a deal that maybe isn't in line with the market, right? It's in line with their circumstance. So just like
Or you
in
go,
single
what
family-
about going to wholesalers, like posting on all the wholesaler groups?
I mean, you can. That's a same process, right? Same challenge there. Is what wholesaler really knows what they're doing? It's the same
Like
thing. in single-
Keegley's sending me deals right now.
Yeah. In the single family space, you got a ton of wholesalers. Half of them, probably 90% of them don't know what they're doing, right? They're marketing properties and their asking price plus the rehab is full market value. So they're
Right.
not leaving any space for anybody to make any money. Well, you're going to find the same thing in multifamily, right? So can you find a person in the multifamily space that's actually wholesaling good deals? Sure. Do I know who they are? No. You know, that'll take some time to weed through that and figure that out.
Do you
I wanna
guys have a fact finder that you send out to the broker that says things like NOI cap rate, local cap rate, percentage occupancy, rent rates versus market rent rates?
I want to jump in real quick. To answer that question, it's a lot of that stuff you'll find on the OM. And for
What's
example,
OM?
offering memorandum.
Okay.
An offering memorandum, essentially the marketing package that a broker will put together for a specific property that they have a listing for, which is why I was having this conversation with someone the other day. You eliminate the hardest part of going direct to seller by having a broker do the work, because you now know that the property is up for sale. You know the intent is there. The hardest part of going direct to seller is finding out if they're actually serious about selling or they're just spewing BS hoping to get a price out of you. That's the first step. But I don't want to get too much into the details of that, because as we've clearly discussed on this call, which I appreciate the involvement a lot actually, is there's 100 different ways you can find a deal. There's no right way, there's your way. You have one preference, I have another. Can that overlap and work together? 100%. So there's no right answer in that. And I don't want anyone here to think that there is a right way. It's the way that you're going to do. You know, everyone works out differently. Everyone leads sources differently. Everyone analyzes differently. Just keep that in mind, because at the end of the day, the one that you can do, and your budget is a big component of it. Some of the stuff you're saying, many people might not have the pockets for, because that stuff adds up real quick. And then there's one more thing I want to mention about the market itself. I think if you're ever not looking for deals because of what you think the market is a mistake. And that's just to everyone. That's not specific to one person. Generally speaking, if you're not
If you have cash flow, then it doesn't really matter if the appreciation goes down. You're in it for the long-term game.
So here's how I look at it.
Exactly.
Real estate sells in every market. Does that mean every one that buys in a down market is making a wrong decision, is buying bad property or a bad deal? And is everyone that buys in a high market paying too much? I don't think so. I think if real estate is selling, that means the numbers made sense for someone. Now, could it take you longer to find a deal that fits your buy box or fits your criteria? Maybe. But what alternative are you going to, like, I don't have a 9 to 5. This is what I do. What, I'm just going to wait for the market to get better to get off my ass? No, I'm going to keep looking for deals. I'm going to keep underwriting. I'm going to keep offering. One more thing to keep in mind. A deal has, every property for sale has a structure that will work for you. If you tell me, hey, Ed, I need to hit 7% on entry cash on cash return with 20% debt at a price of this much, with this many units, with this much rehab budget, with this much monthly payment, and I want to turn around of XYZ on the value, and I need the rents to increase by this much percent, I can structure a deal that checks all those boxes. It just means I have to get in front of the right seller that's open to those terms. Let me give you an example. I have a 70+ unit in Los Angeles on market, been on the market for over 2 months now. And I structured a deal where the seller's carrying 35% of the price at 2% interest plus 1% of the cash flow. There aren't many places I can get 35% of my debt covered for 2% interest.
Yeah, that's a great deal.
But
Why'd they
if
do
you
it?
never offered, I wouldn't know. You
So
see
they're
what-
gonna be like they're gonna have a lien against the ongoing cash flow or what?
It's an LLC. We're gonna restructure the LLC. So it's an LLC restructure, not a property purchase. And that's where I can make this a little more complicated, add another wrinkle to it. We're not even buying the property, we're taking over the LLC, adjusting the operating agreement, and hopefully, like, don't quote me on this, avoiding a tax reassessment, which means we save $130,000 a year.
Okay,
So if you can get creative and offer creative, I think you can find a deal in any market. You mentioned pace. I'm in sub 2. A lot of people here are in sub 2. I will never offer on a property without some component of seller carry, and I don't care if they told me no. They could
yeah,
have said
that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think one of these calls, maybe on the underwriting call tomorrow, I need to re-go over the LOI because I've shared it with everyone before, but it's been a while. My LOI is 3 offers. The first offer is the highest sales price with the highest seller carry. That's the most. Ironically enough, the highest purchase price usually works in my favor the most. Because personally, the long game, like I said, if in 10 years I buy a property today and in 10 years it's not worth more, substantially worth more, then either the world's on fire or I suck at what I'm doing. It's just the bottom line. Like, that's just real estate. If you add 3% rent increase every year, which is fairly small on average in most markets, you are gonna appreciate the asset because it's
But are
max.
you looking for class C or class B? And are you looking for a certain occupancy and we're below market rent rates and also needs to be fixed up? Or is there a certain buy box that you're looking for?
Personally, value add, I think, is the long-term biggest benefit, but it is risky. I like the C plus B personally, but here's one more thing that you have to factor as well. Assumable loan doesn't matter what the current rates are. That's something to keep in mind. So all these prices and these listings, your prices aren't going to change much unless the seller's mindset changes. So that's important. Personally, I'm very flexible with that, but it really comes down to the resources and how much that rehab takes. And if it's in a market I'm very comfortable with. Less value add is, or sorry, less rehab is ideal, just in a sense of more stuff can go wrong. But at the end of the day, that shouldn't be a deal breaker because I trust the resources and people I know and have in place that a little rehab or a lot of rehab is the same thing. Oh, here's a point I want to bring up that I forgot. Occupancy. It depends. The only reason the occupancy will be a heavy factor in the acquisition of a property is on the lending side, because it affects the bottom line. And bottom line is how lenders underwrite it, which means it affects how much you qualify for, or the building qualifies for. But let's say there's an assumable loan or there's a seller carry component and there is a big rehab and value add. Personally, I want the units that are in bad condition to be vacant. So if that means 20 of them are vacant, let me worry about filling the ones that I can't work on right now instead of the seller, because then that means they vetted the person and not me. And let me worry about the rehab and my timeline for that. I would rather have a building with high vacancy than a building with a seller just said, oh, I'm going to sell in 3 months. Let me fill it with a bunch of people who are paying low rents, maybe don't qualify, maybe aren't the best tenants, they're not vetted. You're just putting a butt in the seat essentially to make your occupancy look higher. And now I have a bad tenant. Like that's worse than having a vacancy, right? So it depends. Like when was this tenant? When did the tenant move in? What's their rent looking like? What's the unit like? Like the occupancy only affects me if I'm trying to get a new loan.
I think on a situation like this, I'd rather be the money and you guys find me the deal. You bring me the deal. We're partners, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 with the money guy who gets his money back first, kind of a thing. And we buy multifamily. That's kind of what I'm looking for because I don't want to do all the, I'm kind of semi-retired financial advisor in Miami. I mean, you know, I live next to the beach and I don't want to, I don't really have the energy to go after these kind of things like this. I want some young guys to do it and I bring the money.
Cliff, I
Does
have
anybody-
I have a few deals I'm working on in Miami.
But
I
I
have a-
don't do loans. I want real equity. I mean, I'm an animal, so I'm going to try to take as much as I can get, just so you guys know that.
So let me this as well with the structure.
We can
you-
definitely bring you some deals, Cliff, no question.
Okay.
So let me just
Because I'm looking at a deal right now, multifamily in Orlando. It's a mobile home park, 22 units. The guy wants 700K. He's got 130 down or something with some local bank. You have to buy these $70,000 manufactured homes one at a time, bring them in to make it go to like a 2.2. It looks like a decent deal, but I don't want to put in the work myself and have
Right.
to like manage something unless it's
Sure.
worth like 10, you know, maybe 20 million, 10 million profit, I might do it. But for like 2 million, we're dividing up with some other guys. I don't want to move to Orlando and run a deal like that. So
Cliff,
yeah.
put my number on my name or I put it in the chat.
I got a guy with 4 million right now who had his money in a hedge fund. He's in 30 under 30 with Zuckerberg. He's got a startup company, he owns car dealerships, 38-year-old guy. And if I can do one deal with him right now, I'll be able to do like lots of deals with the guy.
Right.
So I'm looking for somebody who can give me a decent deal. Are you Dion Ramos?
No,
Oh.
I sent you my phone number. I just sent it. Give me a call after this or send me
Is
your
it
number.
David Retneller or Edward Shamirian?
It's Edward.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also put my number in there because I'm also part of a network with people. And so if we come with some capital, we should
I
have a
put my
decent number
number
of
in
options.
there. Just text me your guys' names and what you guys do and any deals. I just left World Fund Management. It's $1 billion RIA and I'm starting my own RIA. And I want to raise money for like these kind of deals on more an institutional level. So I'm kind of getting my feet wet on smaller deals and then I want to go large. That's why I'm doing lease option to buy because I want to make like a $20 million fund and prove that it works. And I'm doing some money into land flipping too and development. And I want to pick up a whole bunch of properties. I remember 2008 and I want to pick up a whole bunch of properties coming in a year or two when these things start crashing based on cash flow.
Right. That's
So I
going to
kinda
be the
want-
play is be patient. Don't
I
be
kind of want
quick to
guys who know
deploy
what they're
capital.
doing, who can just be the bird dogs, bring in the deals, and I'll bring in the capital, and we're all partners, like three of us: the money guy,
Cliff,
me, and the deal guy.
Yep.
Cliff, I didn't get your phone number, but anyway, I don't want to. Well, let's connect offline. I don't want to.
Yep.
Keep.
It's in the chat right now.
I got it, Ed. I'll send it to you.
Okay.